My name is Saima, and I was a panelist, and I facilitated the I Am activity.
That's great. Can you tell us what the I Am activity was and what that's about, why we did it?
The purpose of it was to look at stereotypes that are associated with different groups and just to see, how they act as barriers, and the fact that though they may have been there for, they may have had some truth to them or none at all, or, that they may be positive or negative. They're just broad, sweeping generalizations that can be hurtful or, that can just be very false. And the stereotypes can act as walls or as barriers between people and, kind of not really prevent them, but it would definitely be at least a barrier to some degree that would stop them from perhaps communicating with each other or, doing things with each other as effectively as they could.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out on this unexpectedly vigorous New England day. And we're so grateful. I'm Jonathan Eder. I'm produce programs here at the Mary Baker Eddy Library, and we're so grateful to be putting this program on in collaboration with Youth Lead of Sharon, Massachusetts. And we're particularly grateful today because apparently Sharon was very hard hit by this storm. So I always sensed that they were very intrepid in my phone conversations with them, particularly in sort of tackling this, at times, very difficult issue of how to communicate on interfaith matters. But they're intrepid physically as well, as they dug their cars out of snowbanks, et cetera, this morning to get here. So thank you very much, Youth Lead, for that extra effort. We are having this program today in many ways because of our exhibit theme this year. Every year we have a different exhibit theme, and it's identified by the exhibit that you will find in our downstairs ground floor exhibit in the reception area. And this year the topic is finding peace. And interfaith understanding just seems to me to really jump right up to the top of the list of things that are necessary for us collectively and individually to do in terms of that effort and that goal of finding peace. So I very energetically looked into how we should pull off a program of this kind, and as I looked into it, all roads seemed to lead to Sharon, Massachusetts. And I guess there were still some roads leading out of Sharon this morning, thankfully. But in preparing this program, all roads seemed to lead to Sharon, and I couldn't quite understand why that was true, why Youth Lead kept on surfacing as the organization really to consult on this matter. And then I learned a little bit more about Sharon, Massachusetts. And Youth Lead is part, or it's affiliated with the Pluralism Project at Harvard University. And it describes on their profile of Youth Lead that the town where it is situated, Sharon, is kind of a microcosm of a pluralistic community, that it has a very sizable Jewish population, but also a mosque located there, a sizable Muslim, a sizable Hindu, and a sizable Christian population. And I was further gratified in talking to Youth Lead to discover that they're sort of the acronym for it, LEAD standing for Youth Leaders Engaging Across Differences, is something you pick up the moment you're on the phone with them, that there is this incredible energy and incredible desire to just be open and receptive with this organization. So I'd just like to acknowledge some of the people that I've had the pleasure to work with that are here today. Karen Firoza, just there in the back row. She's the program director at Youth Lead, and it's been just a great joy to work with her and to find out more about what they do. And then also in the back row, Tabitha May Talub, and she was there at the beginning in helping us initiate this idea and this program. There is this great resonance between our exhibit and the core values of Youth Lead. Our exhibit on Finding Peace is divided into 4 core thematic areas of reflection, understanding, kindness, and forgiveness. The core values of Youth Lead are reflection, connection, and action. And if you look at Mary Baker Eddy's contributions in the exhibit and you think about her life, I think, could be summarized by those core values of Youth Lead, of reflection, connection, and action. At midlife, when she was in her mid-40s, Mary Baker Eddy had a defining personal experience that completely changed her outlook, or it deepened profoundly her outlook on life. That critical experience in her life resulted in a major healing, physical healing for her, and also just a great insight about the divine nature of life. And for really the next 3 years of her life, she dedicated it to reflection. She reflected on what happened, studied about what happened, and that led to her desire to connect in as profound and as broad a way as possible with the society around her. And eventually that would lead her to be connecting with the entire world. And as of this outreach of connecting, pretty much every day of her life, she was profoundly active in bringing her insight to the world. So if I were to think of 3 things that Mary Baker Eddy defines Mary Baker Eddy, reflection, connection, and action, I think would be serious contenders. So there are all these, upon reflecting, there are all these connections between the action of Youth Lead and the action of Mary Baker Eddy, and by extension, the activities that we engage here at the Mary Baker Eddy Library. So I want to introduce to you our moderator from Youth Lead, Madhu Prakash. Is that a correct pronunciation? And she's going to let you know what to expect with this afternoon's program. So welcome, Madhu.
Hi, thank you for coming today. Hopefully you guys will enjoy our program today. I actually got involved in Youth Lead freshman year. Now I'm a senior. And I really got involved when one of my friends said, why don't you go try it out? Why don't you see what you think of it? And when I went there, it was actually, I really did not know what to expect. And when I went in and I saw what was going on, I noticed it was nothing like any of the other programs that I've been part of, because this Youth Lead program was completely youth-led, and it gave a totally different kind of outlook and perspective. And I felt like I could kind of put myself out there more, and it kind of taught me different skills through trainings and through different projects and meetings. There's a whole sense of building a community. And today, the program where we put together, hopefully you guys will learn about identity. And you're not representing everyone, you're representing yourself, which is an important part. And now I would like to introduce the rest of the youth from Youth Lead. Come up here, please. Sure.
Hey everybody, I'm Jasmina, and I'm a junior at Sharon High School, and this is my 3rd year in Youth Lead.
Hi, I'm Vatusha. I'm also a junior at Sharon High School, and this is also my 3rd year.
Hi, I'm Divya. I'm also a junior, and it's my 3rd year in Youth Lead as well.
Hello, I'm Saima, and I'm a senior at Sharon High. Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a senior at King Philip Regional High School in Rentham.
Hi, I'm Megan, and I'm a sophomore at Archbishop Williams High School in Braintree.
Now I would like to call up our wonderful program director, Karen.
Hi, everyone. I'm the local program director of Youth Lead, based out in Sharon, Massachusetts. And I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. The planning committee worked really hard on this program, and we hope you can stay for the whole time. But if you have any questions, definitely ask me, ask any of the youth here, and we'd love to answer your questions. So please enjoy the panel and the rest of the program. Thank you.
Now we're going to move into the panel. And these are the 4 people who represent different identities. Why don't you guys introduce who you are and like what your identity is?
Hi, I'm Divya. I'm a junior, and I identify myself as a Hindu.
My name is Saima. I identify as a Muslim.
My name is Sophia. I have studied Christian Science.
I'm Megan, and I also have studied Christian Science.
Okay. So the first question is, what does your religion or lack thereof mean to you in today's world?
So I, as a Hindu, I take more of a spiritual perspective of my religion. So in today's world, I see my religion affecting the decisions and values I have and how I go about in my life with my religion.
I also see my religion in almost a more spiritual light. I find also, though, that it helps me to almost ground myself in the world, if that makes any sense. It gives me a set of, I feel like it gives me almost a set of ideas that I can think about and, I don't know, I can think about and consider with what the values of society are today. And by taking both into account, or by seeing what I feel is the right thing to do, I can make better decisions.
To me, Christian Science is essentially, it is a science. I see a set of laws that I can apply to my life. It's also spiritual. Yes, there's spiritual laws based off of 7 principles that I see. They're principle, mind, soul, spirit, life, truth, and love. And these are the laws that I follow in my life.
Christian Science to me has just been basically a way of life. It's what you do every day is just how Christian Science is like applied to you and how you apply it to what you do, I guess, in life. And it sets your standards and your morals, and it's just how you look at things, and it's definitely a spiritual view on life, and yeah.
Thank you. And have you faced any challenges because you identified yourself this way?
I think that as a Hindu, I have different beliefs and decisions I would make than from my peers. So it conflicts with the society, and I think that's a challenge I face every day.
I think that the biggest conflict that I probably have faced when it comes to religion would just be the perspective that, you know, some people have of Islam isn't necessarily what it is. And I feel like there's a great deal of miscommunication as to what Islam was actually built from, like the 7 pillars and things like that.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of miscommunication when it comes to religion. I myself have had a bit of conflict with my personal lifestyle and my religion. as far as religion goes and trying to relate to other people, it's like, gosh, I'm so bad at speaking with a microphone. It's hard sometimes to connect to somebody, especially in school, when you are so used to connecting to Christian Science, and then you go to school and somebody doesn't know what Christian Science is, and you feel so comfortable talking about God and talking about your faith. It's hard to connect to some people, and especially when you have a different interpretation of your religion than others would seem to agree with. Like, you might have a controversial point of view, which sometimes I feel like I do have a different point of view than some Christian Scientists, and that has been a challenge for me. But what I always get to come back to is that no matter what religion that I am, no matter what religion anybody is, there's something that connects us all. I've been recently starting to call it that one incredible law, and it seems to be related to love. It's something that everybody is taught when they're little, that, love and compassion, those sorts of things are the good things, and you follow that. And it connects us in the world. That love, you just see it everywhere. You see that everybody can recognize it. And I think that's helped me overcome some of the difficulties.
Christian Science definitely comes with the difficulties of how you base your morals off of and how you keep your standards of yourself. But I wouldn't so much say challenge. Personally, I haven't had many challenges, just because it's not that difficult to deal with. And I know that youth today, there's a lot of peer pressure and stuff, but it's not. I feel like some people have it more than others, and I know that I have that protection that keeps me from having those problems or challenges, difficulties in my life. So, yeah.
So how do you think the world kind of perceives your religion and subsequently yourself?
I think that the world definitely has some stereotypes on how I should be, and that's not necessarily how I view my religion. And definitely, for example, a lot of people think Hindus are very conservative and very religious people, and I, for one, am not very religious, and I take Hinduism as more of a spiritual way. So it definitely conflicts with how the world sees me, and that's definitely a challenge.
I think that there's a lot of variation in how Muslims are viewed in today's world. I think it depends on where the focus is. I mean, if you look at, some portrayals in the media or something, you'll hear one sort of story. If you go somewhere else, you might hear another story. If you meet someone in person, you might hear some other third story, or you might not. I mean, I think that's, I don't know, I think that there is a lot of variation as far as views go. But I think that's natural. I think, I'm not sure how I'm coming across to you as, an individual, but, I'm sure that there'd be some sort of variation, in what all of you thought.
Christian Science is often mistaken for Scientology. I was walking down the street last week, and this woman was on her cell phone, and she said, "Excuse me, do you know where the Church of Scientology is?" And I said, "Do you mean the Church of Scientology or the Church of Christian Science?" And she was on the phone. She asked her husband or whoever it was, and she said, "Oh, Christian Science is right there." So it's it's often mistaken for the Scientology because the word science is in there. People don't understand that that for us, what Christ taught was a science, and and yeah, miscommunication, like I had mentioned before, has a lot to do with the misunderstandings that go on. Like some religions, they even misunderstand their own faith. They misinterpret what their own faith is teaching. And another thing that I found when I would surf the web on some Christian Science sort of based videos, I found like a lot of the comments on like YouTube were like, "You guys are a cult," you know, and because you worship Mary Baker Eddy or something like that, which I found very, very weird. I always pictured a cult as like these naked people in a circle, you know, like praising the sky. I don't know why, but and I'm like, that's not Christian Science. We're very normal people. Representation has a lot to do with it. I mean, people need to really understand their faith, or even better yet, understand that there is not a difference in the world. I mean, personally, I think religion gets in the way of spirituality. Because, you know, there have been so many wars and things like that over, particularly in Christianity, like, you know, the Crusades and things like that, and fighting over occupation of Jerusalem in history. It's been a huge conflict, and I think that everybody needs to get past it a little bit and recognize the spirituality behind every different religion. And I think another question that we have in here is the diversity, and it really gets us. I don't know. I'll answer that one later. Never mind.
I know that when I look in like a history book or something in school, there's a bunch of religions in there, but Christian Science I feel like isn't really known that well because it's not like we learn it in school. We don't really learn it anyplace, or we never really hear about it except for like Val Kilmer. Like you hear about him sometimes, and you don't like hear about Christian Science that often. So I feel like when people hear about Christian Science, they're like, I don't know what that is. Like some people will be like, explain more, and some people will be like, oh, okay. It's not like a widely known religion. In some ways it is, but in some ways it's just like, I don't know. I mean, we have like the Christian Science Sentinel and the newspaper and everything, but I feel like not many people know about it unless it's something that you like are interested in. So I don't know.
So how does religious diversity change the way communities define their identity?
So personally, coming from a family where like when I would go to India, I would see the caste system all the time, and I kind of grew to accept it because I didn't know any better. And then when I come talking to Sharon's a very diverse town, so I talked to a lot of different religious people, and I realized that other people didn't see the caste system as a very like good thing, and it was good to explain to them what the caste system really was and what it is today, and it's not necessarily like a horrible thing, and it's not exactly what people think it is. And I also learned a lot about other religions, so my identity is definitely different because now I have a different perspective on the caste system than I originally thought of it. And my perspective is my identity is not just Hinduism, but it's also a mixture of what other people think as well.
I actually completely agree with everything that Divya had said. I find that I haven't been to Pakistan or, you know, the places where my family is from. I went maybe once when I was very little. But, you know, collectively thinking about the experience that I did have there and, you know, what I experience here and the exposure that I've had, you know, to different faiths and members of different communities, I think that my identity and how I identify with myself and my community is just a mashup of everything.
I feel, okay, communities. Let's see. I feel like the world is a community. America is a community. All the different countries there are communities. And every state or province, every town is a community. And it will be, in this day and age, impossible to find a lack of diversity in any of these communities. Obviously the world, there's diversity there. In America, you see a great amount of diversity in a lot of other countries as well. I think the diversity is a country's or a community's identity, because and those Venn diagrams, right, with the circles. There's that one category that all the circles have in common, and that's how I kind of view it. All the communities have their little circles, but they all have that one thing in common, which is that love that I mentioned before. I'm really sticking to that. Nobody can tell me differently that love is not that one thing we have in common. I mean, you might come across like a few really insane people that just like love hate, but they still love it. I don't know. Love is there. Yeah, each religion has their own idea. But again, it's based off of that love.
When I think of community, I think of everyone coming together, and that diversity in the community helps everyone see different people in different ways. And the identity of that community, if everyone is so different, you're so different in all the same ways, that it's just like everyone comes together, and it's all, it's just like, yeah, it's different in all the same ways. Everyone has something in common, and that is that love, and everyone loves something, so.
Thank you, panelists. And do any of you have any questions for the panelists? No. Yes.
You talked about how your perception of the caste system has changed based on what you've been exposed to here. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And can you explain what the caste system is, because Beth doesn't know.
So the caste system is, in Hindu scriptures, there's a division between different parts of society, different professions. Starting from, well, before it used to be the sages were at the top, but then it was the warriors, then some farm workers and businessmen, and then at the very bottom, which is even sometimes not even considered part of the caste system, is the Untouchables, which is probably debatably the most controversial part of the caste system, because they're seen as the untouchables because they're the peasants who don't really have a job, and they're usually homeless people. And when I go to India, my dad's from a village, so everything's still a little bit more conservative than what the cities are. And when I go there, it's definitely not the same caste system anymore, but there's definitely divisions. You could see that the farmers go to a different temple than I do as a business class people. So I'm just grown used to it because that's how I've grown up, and that's where I go every year. And it's not necessarily, I feel like, because we still are friends with other people that are from different castes, and we still have dinner together and all that stuff. And it doesn't seem much of a barrier as it seems like when you haven't been interacting with that type of society. So coming back here and seeing how it's not perceived as a good thing, I think that it was originally made in order to just have structure in society so that society could progress and more things could happen rather than an actual barrier between people. So explaining that to others kind of And then others explaining to me about how they saw the caste system as a bad thing because it's splitting up people because of their occupations kind of helped me like get my own perspective on the caste system.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? Yes. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Yes. Saima. I'm sure you were so young 10 years ago when September 11th happened, but can you just talk about perhaps with your family members that are older, how perhaps misperceptions and discrepancies about the Muslim faith has impacted your family or your lives or people that you know since September 11th?
Well, I guess how I would start out answering that question would just be what my reaction was when it happened. I was in 2nd grade and we were all out, I think it was like at recess we came back and like some of the teachers were crying. Something was wrong. Something was very obviously wrong, but no one knew what was going on, and you know, we were all like so little that something didn't make sense. Later on, when I found out, you know, about, okay, so there was a terrorist group and they did something, and then, you know, something about the Twin Towers falling, it still seemed kind of like something that was distant and far away. And it wasn't, I didn't see how it would impact me, like, initially, just, I guess, because of the age. But later on, like years later, I began to see how, you know, there was, I don't know, I guess slowly how there almost became like a little bit of a prejudice against like Islam or Muslims just because, you know, because of an organization. It wasn't, you know, it's not something that, oh, everyone is a part of the, no, it's like one color out of an entire spectrum of colors. There's so much more, there's so many other perspectives, so many other people, that it just, I don't know, I think it kind of skewed a view. I know that for my family, like my immediate family, I haven't seen or, you know, I haven't heard them say anything that, you know, about being treated differently or anything like that. But I know that like I've heard like weird stories from like other people about, you know, checkouts at like the airport and things like that. And I think I can understand why the fear would be there, but on a certain level, I think it's a little, I almost want to say premeditated, like, I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Thank you.
I have a question, mostly for everyone. Why would you be interested in reaching out to other faiths? Like, why is that important to you? Why are you here? Why do you get involved and lead things, especially as teenagers? Because there's so many other options and so many other things you could be doing. Why bother?
Well, for me, I personally got involved because I feel like I was somewhat blind, and the only perspective I had was from my family or what I've heard, but I couldn't think for myself. And for me, through Youth Lead, it kind of created a sort of environment where I could kind of express myself and kind of decide who I am and what is true or what I could learn about or from other religions or other faiths. And that's why I got involved.
I definitely agree with that because I was grown up with one perspective, and I also thought that I wasn't sure of what I actually thought because I've only seen one perspective, and other perspectives also maybe I'm not actually that much of a Hindu as I thought. Maybe I'm more of a I apply more to, like, for example, Christian Science faith. Maybe I relate to that more than I have for Hinduism. So it also, like, you wouldn't normally have these type of conversations over lunch or something. So it's definitely, like, interesting to have these conversations and talk about things that really are really important to you and see what others think about it.
I think that it's important to try and break down barriers if there are any, and just to have everyone understand each other. Because if I understand you and you understand me, then we should be able to work together and accomplish something great.
Now, I'm not an active member in Youth Lead, but I participated in this particular event, and I'm a part of Discovery Bound, which is a Christian Science youth group, which does different sorts of activities and trips together. I've personally been fascinated with the different kinds of religions. I do these kinds of things because it matters to me. It's an identity, it's a security, because I can relate to spirituality, I can relate to faith, and I think a lot of people can, and a lot of people do, subconsciously. Even if somebody is an atheist, they still believe in something. And I like to explore what people believe in. I like to explore why people do certain things or why people don't do certain things. It's, I guess, a kind of spiritual psychology, and I'm fascinated with it, and it helps me figure out my identity, who I am, how I express myself by exploring how other people do. And maybe I can come up with a mishmash, an identity that is solidly my own. And I think we all do that. We all come up with our own identity by exploring different things, by trying different activities or different faiths or different foods, whatever it might be.
All right, thank you. Give a round of applause for the panelists. Now for the rest of the program, we're actually going to move up to the conference room, and then we will do the next activity.
My name is Megan, and I'm a 10th grader at Archbishop Williams High School in Braintree.
So you were part of today's Believing Young Voices program. You were on the panel and participated in some of the special activities we had after the panel. What sort of just immediately after the program jumps into your mind as something that you weren't expecting, or something that just was particularly interesting about what happened today?
Well, when I was thinking today, it was completely different than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like a circle and we were going to talk and stuff. I did not know that it was going to be like a panel discussion, and we were going to talk like one after another about our differences in our faiths and stuff. It was nice to hear the differences between everyone, like, I don't know, just everyone's differences in their faith is like so interesting, and it's just all so different.
Yeah. So do you think after this that you'll feel a kind of momentum about engaging in this kind of thought and conversation more?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really talked about it before, I don't think, in my experiences. And to talk about it today was such a different experience. And it's so interesting to hear, because you hear about all these different religions and you never actually think about what the other people are thinking of and how they practice their faith and their religion. And to hear it today, it was so fascinating to know what other religions like think about. So.
Hi, I'm Jasmina, and I'm a junior at Sharon High, and I was one of the facilitators today.
Oh, great. Well, tell us what you were facilitating. What went on in the interactive discussions that you were facilitating?
For me, especially, I found it to be a very good learning experience because most of the people in our group were Christian Scientists, and I didn't know much about Christian Science until I came here today. Like, I knew absolutely nothing until the car ride here. And so just the whole conversation ended up being a big learning experience for me.
So give us an example of one of the questions that you facilitated with.
So one of the questions, actually, let's see. One of the questions that I thought brought a lot out was, have you faced any challenges in identifying yourself in this way, in the way that they identify themselves? And I found that that brought out a lot of personal stories, which definitely made the learning less like didactic, like it was coming from a book, and actually sort of something you can relate to. And
so they were mostly Christian Scientists in your group. Did you, based on hearing their stories, did you feel a connection with them, or did you feel that, well, their experience is different from mine?
I felt more of a connection than a difference, especially one person told a story about healing through faith, and I haven't personally never experienced that before, but I found it interesting, and sort of, in a way, her sharing that story made me able to understand Christian Science better and relate to her better.
That's great. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add about today's program?
Nothing other than thank you so much for having me, and this was very much a very good experience, a very good learning experience.
Hello, my name is Saima, and I was a panelist, and I facilitated the I Am activity.
That's great. Can you tell us what the I Am activity was and what that's about and why we did it?
Well, the I Am activity was an activity, and the purpose of it was to look at stereotypes that are associated with different groups and just to see, you know, how they act as barriers, and the fact that though they may have been there for, you know, they may have had some truth to them or none at all, or, you know, that they may be positive or negative, they're just broad sweeping generalizations that can be hurtful or, you know, that can just be very false. And the stereotypes can act as walls or as barriers between people and, you know, kind of not really prevent them, but it would definitely be at least a barrier to some degree that would stop them from perhaps communicating with each other or, you know, doing things with each other as effectively as they could.
Yeah. Do you think after today's event and activity, do you think it will spur you to engage in more kind of interfaith interaction, or give you more? I mean, I know you're in Youth Lead and you've done a lot with this, but did even this for you give you some more ideas or some more tools or some more insight?
I think it did give me some more tools and some more insight. This is my first time facilitating an activity which involved adults. I've never done that before. And I think that the experience that I will have gained from being here and honestly just being able to hear the opinions of everyone who is in the group and what they had to say will be a tool, because it helps me to understand newer perspectives.
So there were a lot of adults here today. Do you think that made it more difficult or just different?
I think it just made it different.
And do you think it was just as easy to talk about these kind of matters with adults as with peers, or do you feel there's a difference when you talk, or is it the same?
I think it was just as easy. Honestly, if people are open to different ideas, it's very easy to communicate with them. And I feel like, you know, everyone who is here today, and, you know, honestly, probably a lot of people who weren't here today would be very open to talking about the things we did today, you know, and engaging in something like the I Am activity, because they help people to communicate across differences, and I think that's something which we need in the world today.
Hi, I'm Madhu.
And you were moderator today for the panel here at the Mary Baker Eddy Library. What were your impressions? Was there anything surprising that came out of the panel discussion for you when you think about it?
Well, actually, I really didn't know anything about Christian Science, so I really I didn't know what to expect or what to take out of it. I was just listening, and it was actually quite interesting about what Sophia said about how she really thought like love was the main thing, that was her identity, and that different people have different identities and it's not just one thing. And yeah, though I am a Hindu and I identify myself as that, I really didn't know the caste system as much, so that was quite interesting as well.
And during the individual sessions or the group discussions that were held up here in the third floor conference, what were your impressions of that? Did anything come out of that really stands out in your mind?
Yes, actually someone brought up that stereotypes and identity is really what you think and what you think that other people think of you, and it's not, and you will stop thinking that way when you stop worrying about or being self-conscious and just think for yourself. And it was actually, I brought up like media, and people actually found that media can be good and bad, and it's just not negative, which was also interesting because I always thought media kind of structured everything for you, and I like that outlook.
Anything else you'd like to mention about today?
I really enjoyed actually the whole experience. This is my first time doing panel moderation. I have done the identity theft, and that was kind of similar, but when I went to the I Am activity where we had to write stereotypes, it was, every time I feel like it's a different experience with a different group, and I really liked it.